Hello and welcome to Science Never Stops. I'm your host, Joseph Vick, the Museum Education Director with the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. Today we are celebrating NASA's International Observe the Moon Night, sponsored by Planetary Missions Program at Marshall Space Flight Center. International Observe the Moon Night is a time to come together with fellow moon enthusiasts and curious people worldwide. Everyone on Earth is invited to learn about lunar science and exploration, take part in celestial observations, and honor cultural and personal connections to the moon. You can check out moon.nasa.gov/observe online and follow the hashtag Observe the Moon on your preferred social media platform. Okay. On today's program, we have the NASA Marshall Space Flight Center Strategic Communications Manager for Space Launch System, Marcia Lindstrom. Welcome, Marcia, to Science Never Stops.
Hi, Joseph. So delighted to be with you.
Now, Marcia, as the Strategic Communications Manager of NASA's Space Launch System, can you tell us more about America's next great rocket and where it can take us?
I would love to, Joseph. So from the sun's atmosphere to the fringes of interstellar space, America has inspired the world by sending spacecraft to every planet in the solar system and achieving historic firsts in human spaceflight. So today, under NASA's leadership, our nation is on an ambitious new journey of exploration and discovery, and that is to return astronauts to the moon, and this time to stay. And all of that will be to prepare for challenging missions to Mars and beyond. So if you think about it, sending astronauts 250,000 miles to the moon and then 140 million miles to Mars, well, that requires more than just a bold vision. It requires a very different kind of beast, kind of a whole different rocket. So it requires a super heavy lift rocket with unparalleled capability. And fortunately, we have just the thing. Standing 322 feet tall and weighing in at 5.75 million pounds and boasting 8.8 million pounds of thrust, the Space Launch System is that rocket. And it is the only rocket that can get astronauts and the cargo needed to the moon in one launch. So it really is the foundation for human exploration beyond Earth's orbit. And if you want to talk about where it will take us, well, I'll ask you, Joseph, where would you like to go? The beauty of SLS is more, farther, faster. So we can take large aperture observatories to distant destinations. We can take things like the Europa Clipper to Jupiter's icy moon to search for signs of life. And we will take astronauts to the moon as part of the Artemis missions over the next 5 years. But we're starting that next year to lay the groundwork for that. So all good stuff, and this is just the rocket to do it.
Well, that's exciting. So speaking of excitement, are you excited about NASA's future efforts of returning astronauts to the moon? And how is returning to the moon different with the Artemis program?
So, Joseph, no, I'm not at all excited, as you can tell. Are you kidding me? I'm thrilled to death. And as you know, it's been more than 50 years since humans ventured beyond low Earth orbit. We've been doing amazing things with our international partners at the International Space Station, and we need all of that because it feeds into what we need to know for long-duration missions to further destinations. But with Artemis, the return to the moon, different from Apollo, is that when we return now, we will access places on the lunar surface never thought possible. So we're talking about the South Pole. With Apollo, we landed at the equatorial region, which is fantastic. With the South Pole, you get to start thinking about things like in situ reutilization of the resources there. So we'll also establish a lunar base for sustainable exploration and discovery. We're going to practice living and working outside the safety of the Earth's magnetosphere, and we'll take what we learn on and around the moon to take that next giant leap to further destinations. And when you think about it, just like with Apollo, the first astronauts to step on the moon, when the first woman and the next man, Artemis astronauts, step foot on the moon, they will put their feet where no human has ever been before. at the South Pole. And of course, the horizon goal of sending humans to Mars. Artemis begins the next era of exploration. So it's incredibly exciting for all of us and very important to all of us, especially in our worlds, Joseph, because what we are also hoping to do is inspire a whole new generation of young people interested in science, technology, engineering, and yes, art and math. We need those professionals. So it's a great time to be alive and a great time to be working at NASA.
That's true. You can't have art without Artemis.
That is right.
That's a good connection there. So, what is your favorite space launch system fact you'd like to share with our audience?
Okay, so you asked for it. I mentioned a couple of cool facts talking about the size and power and unparalleled capability, but I got a few I want to hit you with.
Okay.
So just as an example, let's talk about first the boosters. They're 177 feet tall, or taller than a 17-story building. They produce 3.6 million pounds of thrust each. So together they make up 75% of the power needed to get that rocket off the ground. They burn through 1,385,000 pounds of propellant in the 2 minutes that they burn. That's an average, and I don't do public math, so this is already determined, of 5.5 tons of propellant per second, which is just crazy. So, or let's talk about the efficiency of the RS-25 engines. That is tried and true technology upgraded to the standards and requirements of the Space Launch System. The RS-25 engine, formerly known as the Space Shuttle main engine, but upgraded like crazy. So if your car engine was as efficient as the RS-25, it would fit in the palm of your hand. That's pretty impressive power delivery there. So, or let's talk about evolvability. So SLS is designed to evolve for mission flexibility. So it's able to carry equipment and astronauts on an exploration mission, or as I mentioned earlier, a large telescope for scientific research. So the first version is able to deliver a little more than 57,000 pounds. And that's the one we'll use on Artemis 1. We'll talk a little bit about that. But it is evolvable to a Mars-enabling capability of more than 46 metric tons. So that's over 100,000 pounds to translunar injection, or TLI, which is where you have to get to go to the moon. And that ability to transport large payload, it's not only is it just cool, but it reduces payload complexity, operational complexity from the ground to destination, and that saves time, money, and it increases the chances for successful missions. So all of that, and then let's talk about one thing that's kind of a cool thing. I'm not an engineer and I'm not a scientist, so I just I understand what this does, but not all the facts with it. But just a unique capability of SLS is its departure energy. So that's the energy a mission requires after escaping Earth's gravitational influence. SLS is like many other things, the departure energy of SLS is unmatched. So what does that mean? So we've mentioned the Europa Clipper mission, or let's take a look at the trip to Europa again. If you use the most capable commercial launch vehicle available, it would take you 5.5 years to get there. With SLS and the departure energy that we have, that time is cut in half. So 2.2 years instead of 5.5. That to the science world is absolutely huge. And then another cool fact, because I'm not sure everybody really understands how close we are. I know, I'm all over it. Where are we now with progress? Well, I'm just going to tick it off. Engines, done. RS-25 engines, done. Boosters, solid rocket boosters, done and delivered. The in-space stage, done and delivered. The core stage, built, integrated, and in final testing in what we call green run testing at the Stennis Space Center in Mississippi. That is the last stop before it heads to Kennedy to be integrated with the Orion spacecraft and the mobile launcher to head to Launch Complex 39B and for launch next year for Artemis 1. So that's just, I could go on and on, but that's the short version of all the cool things about it. I'm sure there's some engineers at Marshall that would argue what's the coolest, but those are, in my mind, kind of really tell you what's unique about SLS.
That's a lot of cool facts for an even cooler rocket.
That is right.
So where can our viewers go to learn more cool facts about NASA's Space Launch System and the Artemis program?
All righty. Well, of course, you can go to nasa.gov And I would encourage you to, there's an Artemis web page there that really tells you all about those missions. So Artemis 1, which is uncrewed, the first mission of the integrated SLS and Orion spacecraft, which is an uncrewed test flight that'll take Orion 40,000 miles beyond the moon, testing out all those systems to ensure everything is safe for our astronauts. And those, we will have astronauts aboard for Artemis 2 in 2023, and then Artemis 3, Boots on the Moon, 2024. So you can find that at nasa.gov. But as far as SLS, you can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. All you really need to do is just search NASA SLS.
So what advice would you give as a current NASA employee to the next generation of NASA employees?
Okay, so this is perfectly suited to someone like me to answer this question, because as I mentioned, I'm not an engineer, not a scientist, I'm not a physicist. What I would give as advice is find out what you love to do, what you're really good at, and hone those skills and that love, and then pursue those within NASA. As I mentioned, I'm kind of living proof that NASA needs a diverse workforce. Yes, we need engineers, scientists, physicists, all of those people, technicians, just runs the gamut. But we also need people that are able to and love to tell the world about the incredible missions of NASA and to share the excitement and inspiration that comes with NASA's primary mission, which is to reach new heights, to reveal the unknown for the benefit of all humankind. It's not a bad mission, not bad at all.
I agree. It takes brain power and passion to lift a rocket off the ground.
You're right.
Thank you very much, Marcia, for joining us in celebration of International Observe the Moon Night, and thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. We are excited, and get out there. You can observe the moon on Observe the Moon Night, but you can do it almost any other time. And remember, in a year, we'll be out there 40,000 miles beyond it with Artemis 1. Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you again for our sponsor, the Planetary Missions Program at Marshall Space Flight Center. Please, we both encourage you to go out and observe the moon, as well as go online to see other exciting virtual moon celebrations around the world at moon.nasa.gov/observe. And wanted to wish all of you clear skies, and remember that science never stops.